Ethan Ward had lived in the small border town of Red Valley for almost 7 years. He liked quiet places, and Red Valley was exactly that: quiet, slow, and predictable. His days were nearly the same. He fixed old trucks, chatted with the local farmers, and returned to his small home at the edge of town. Nothing strange or exciting ever happened there. At least, that's what Ethan believed, until one evening changed everything. That day had been long and tiring. He had repaired 2 engines, replaced a broken radiator, and cleaned the workshop. The sun had almost disappeared behind the hills, turning the sky a mix of orange and purple. Ethan was ready to close the shop. He wiped his hands on a piece of cloth, turned off the lights, and stepped outside. The air was cool and calm. He took a deep breath, enjoying the quiet before heading home. As he locked the metal door, he suddenly heard something unusual: short, sharp pops echoing from the canyon area behind town. He stopped and listened carefully. At first, he thought it might be fireworks or a truck backfiring. But the sounds repeated, one after another, too fast and too sharp to be anything normal. Ethan felt a small wave of concern wash over him. Red Valley was peaceful. Strange sounds never came from the canyon. He looked around the empty street, wondering if anyone else heard it. But the road was silent, the shops were closed, and only the wind moved through the dusty air. Ethan told himself it was probably nothing, but his body stayed alert, waiting for the next sound. Then he heard something else: soft footsteps, fast, unsteady, coming closer. Ethan turned toward the end of the road, where darkness covered most of the path. At first he saw nothing. Then a figure appeared, a young woman running, stumbling, almost falling with every step. Her hair was messy, and her clothes were dusty, as if she had been moving through rough land for hours. She looked frightened, but more than that, she looked exhausted. Ethan's first thought was that she might be injured. His second thought was that something or someone might be chasing her. Without thinking twice, he stepped forward. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out. The young woman's head snapped up. Her eyes widened when she saw him, but she didn't slow down. She ran even faster toward him, breathing hard, her voice breaking as she spoke in a mix of words he barely understood. "Please, help," she said. "Please." Ethan didn't ask any questions. Her voice, her face, her shaking hands, all of it told him she was in real trouble. He reached her just as her legs gave out. He caught her before she hit the ground. "It's okay," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice calm. "You're safe." "What happened?" She shook her head, trying to speak, but her breath was too fast. She pointed behind her toward the canyon she had come from. Her eyes were full of fear, as if she expected danger to appear at any moment. Ethan looked in the same direction. The sky there was darker, and the wind carried the faint echo of footsteps or movement. He couldn't tell exactly what it was, but something was out there, and the young woman wasn't imagining it. He made a quick decision. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's get behind my truck." He helped her stand and guided her behind the old blue pickup parked next to the workshop. She struggled to walk, but Ethan supported her. Once they were hidden behind the truck, she crouched down, hugging her arms close to her body. Ethan crouched beside her, listening to the night. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked, trying to calm her. She hesitated, then spoke. "Lele." Her voice was soft, and her accent was unlike anything Ethan had heard before. She seemed young, maybe in her early 20s, but her eyes looked older, full of worry and something deeper. "Okay, Lele," Ethan said gently. "You're safe for now. Nobody can see us here. Do you know who is coming?" She opened her mouth as if to answer, then closed it again, struggling to breathe steadily. Finally, she whispered, "They follow me." "Why?" Ethan asked quietly, but she didn't get a chance to respond. A soft rustle came from the dark road. Ethan peeked around the corner of the truck. Far away, he saw shadows, moving figures, but not close enough to make out clearly. They walked carefully, as if searching for something. Ethan ducked back down. He looked at Lele, who was trembling but silent. He knew he had to make a choice. He could run to his house and leave her there, or he could stay and help her. But when he looked into her frightened eyes, he knew leaving her wasn't an option. "Stay low," he whispered. She nodded. Minutes passed slowly. The shadows on the road moved around, searching, but they didn't come close enough to see Ethan or Lele. Still, every second felt heavy, like the air around them had thickened. Lele squeezed her hands together. Ethan noticed her lips moving as if she was whispering something to herself. A prayer maybe, or a message. He didn't interrupt. When the distant footsteps faded, Ethan let out a small breath. "They're moving away," he said. "But you're not safe out here. Come with me. My house is close." Lele looked uncertain for a moment, but she nodded again. She trusted him, maybe because she had no choice, maybe because something in his calm voice made her believe him. Ethan helped her stand. She winced slightly, and he realized one of her ankles might have been injured from running. He put an arm around her to support her weight. The walk to his house was slow and careful. Ethan kept scanning the area, making sure no one was following them. Lele limped beside him, still shaky but trying her best to stay quiet. When they reached his home, Ethan unlocked the door quickly and guided her inside. He closed the door, locked it, and turned on a small lamp. The warm light filled the room, making it feel safer and calmer. "You can sit here," he said, helping her to the couch. You're going to be okay. Laylee looked around the room. Simple furniture, soft colors, tools and books stacked neatly on a small table. It looked nothing like the harsh land she came from. She seemed surprised by the gentleness of the place. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan brought her a glass of water. She drank it slowly, her hands still unsteady. Can you tell me what happened? Ethan asked softly. Why were you running? Laylee hesitated. Her eyes shifted to the window, as if she expected someone to appear. Then she looked back at him. I come from far, she said. From the mountains. My people, they do not like when someone leaves. Ethan nodded slowly, encouraging her to continue. I needed help, she said. So I left. But they followed me. They always follow. Her voice was soft but filled with tired fear, as if she had been living in it for days. Ethan didn't know who they were or why they cared so much about her leaving. But one thing was clear. She needed safety, and she trusted him to give it. He made another quiet promise to himself. You can stay here tonight, he said. No one will find you. I'll keep watch. Laylee looked at him with wide, grateful eyes. For the first time since he met her, she seemed to relax even a little. She leaned back against the couch cushions, her body exhausted from running, fear, and uncertainty outside. The night grew darker. The strange figures had left, but Ethan knew this wasn't the end. Someone had been following her. Someone had chased her across the land, and someone might return, but for now, she was safe. Safe because she found the one person in Red Valley who would not leave a frightened stranger alone. And Ethan had no idea that by helping her that night, he was stepping into a world he knew nothing about, one that would soon change his life in ways he could never imagine. When Ethan woke up the next morning, the first thing he remembered was the frightened young woman asleep in his living room. Laylee, the mysterious stranger who had run toward him in the dark, out of breath and terrified. The memory returned with a mix of worry and curiosity. He wondered who she really was and what kind of life she had escaped from. The house was quiet. Soft morning light entered through the curtains, painting long shapes across the wooden floor. Ethan stretched his arms, walked to the kitchen, and started a pot of warm tea. As the kettle made a gentle sound, he glanced toward the living room to check on his guest. Laylee was still asleep, curled up on the couch under the blanket he had given her. Her breathing was calm now, no longer fast and panicked. In sleep, her face looked peaceful, almost childlike. Ethan could hardly believe she was the same person who had stumbled into the town just hours earlier with fear written across her eyes. He didn't want to wake her, so he moved quietly around the house. After a few minutes, he heard soft movement behind him. Laylee was sitting up, blinking at the light, the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Good morning, Ethan said gently. She looked at him for a moment, as if trying to remember where she was, then gave a small nod. Good morning, did you sleep okay? He asked. Yes, she replied. Thank you. Her voice still carried the same soft accent, and though she spoke slowly, her words were clear. Ethan poured tea into a cup and handed it to her. She accepted it with both hands. You're safe here, he said. Nobody came last night. Laylee lowered her eyes in relief. She took a sip of the warm tea and closed her hands around the cup. After a moment of silence, she said, I am sorry I made trouble for you. You didn't, Ethan assured her quickly. Anyone in your situation would need help. I'm just glad you came my way. Something in her face softened. She looked around his living room again, the neat shelves, the tools beside the table, the old photos on the wall. It was all new to her, and she seemed to study everything with quiet wonder. I am far from home, she said slowly. I figured, Ethan replied. Do you want to talk about it? Laylee hesitated. She turned the cup in her hands, thinking. Ethan didn't push her. He simply waited. Finally, she spoke in a gentle, careful voice. My home is in the mountains, she said. Very far from here. My people live there. We do not leave often. Ethan nodded. Why not? Because it is our way. The land gives us everything. We do not use the things you have here. She gestured lightly at the lamp and the kettle. We live simple. Her words came slowly, but Ethan understood her meaning. Her community lived with nature, away from towns, away from modern life. That alone was unusual, but not impossible. There were still groups like that in remote areas. But something about her tone told him there was more to the story. Is that why you left? Ethan asked softly. Laylee looked down at her tea. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, I left because my family needed help. Someone is unwell. I came to search for medicine. Ethan's heart tightened. And your people don't have a doctor. She shook her head. We have our ways. But this time, it is not enough. Her eyes glistened, though she did not cry. My father is very important to my people, she continued. I came to find something that can help him, but I did not tell anyone. If I did, they would not let me go. Ethan understood now. She didn't leave just for herself. She left for someone she loved deeply, someone who depended on her courage. You came alone? He asked quietly. Yes, Laylee said. I walked many days. I hid in the rocks at night. I followed the sky for direction. But my people, they noticed I was gone. They always notice. And they came after me. Ethan felt a chill, but not from fear, from realization. Laylee hadn't been running from enemies. She had been running from her own group, who believed The days following Layla's arrival passed in a strange mix of calm and uncertainty. Ethan tried to give her space to rest while still making sure she felt welcome. She spent most of her time inside his small home, sitting near the window and watching the sky with thoughtful eyes. Sometimes she helped him with small tasks like folding laundry or sorting tools. But Ethan noticed she often paused, listening carefully to the outside world as if expecting someone to call her name. Ethan didn't want to pressure her with questions. He sensed she was carrying heavy thoughts, and he wanted her to share them only when she felt ready. Still, he couldn't deny that a quiet curiosity stayed inside his mind. Every time she mentioned her people, her voice carried both warmth and worry. He wondered what kind of place she had come from, what kind of life she had left behind. On the fourth morning, Layla stood unusually early. Ethan found her outside near the fence, staring at the mountain line in the distance. The sky behind her was soft with sunrise colors, and her long hair moved gently in the wind. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked as he stepped out. Layla didn't look away from the mountains. "They're close," she said softly. Ethan felt a small pull in his stomach. "You're sure?" She nodded. "I can feel it. My people travel quietly, but my heart knows when they are near." Ethan didn't fully understand what she meant, but he could tell she wasn't guessing. She had spoken with the same certainty last night, saying her people were close. Back then, he thought she was simply nervous. Now he realized she was waiting for something she knew would happen. "Are you afraid?" Ethan asked gently. Laleh thought for a moment. "Not afraid, just unsure." He waited for her to continue. "My people do not like when someone leaves. Even if the reason is good, they believe the world outside is confusing and full of things that can make us forget who we are." Her voice grew quiet. "They might believe I have changed." Ethan looked at her, seeing the heaviness in her expression. "You haven't changed. You're just trying to help someone you love." Layla smiled faintly, her eyes warming for a moment. "You understand," he nodded. "I try." They stood silently for a moment, the early wind brushing past them. Ethan could feel the calm beginning to fade from the morning. Later that afternoon, Ethan was fixing a loose hinge on the shed door when he noticed Layla standing inside the house, staring out the window again. This time, her face had gone still, almost frozen. Ethan set his tools down and walked quickly to her side. "Layla." She lifted a hand and pointed toward the far end of the road. "They are here." Ethan's chest tightened. He looked outside, expecting to see cars or loud strangers, but instead he saw something entirely different. 3 distant figures walking quietly, their clothing blending with the earth tones of the land around them. Their steps were slow, calm, almost rhythmic, as if this walk was a normal part of their day. They were still far away, but even from the distance, Ethan could sense something ancient about the way they moved, something deeply connected to the land. Layla's breath came out in a slow, mixed sigh, part relief, part worry. Ethan looked at her. "Do you want to go outside?" She thought for a moment. "Yes, I should meet them first." Ethan nodded. "I'll come with you." "No," she said quickly, then softened her tone. "They will speak to me first. But you, please stay close." Ethan agreed with that. He stood near the doorway as Layla stepped outside. The warm sunlight touched her face, and for a moment she looked like she belonged to another world entirely, one far older than Red Valley, one shaped by traditions he couldn't begin to imagine. The 3 figures approached slowly. When they came close enough, Ethan realized they were carrying simple wooden staffs. They wore long, earth-colored garments that looked handmade and lightly decorated with patterns he didn't recognize. Their expressions were calm, almost peaceful, and their eyes focused gently on Layla when they stood a few steps away from her. The oldest among them, an elder with silver streaks in his dark hair, lowered his head in a respectful greeting. "Layla," the elder said in a soft voice. Layla lowered her head as well. "Elder." The moment felt sacred somehow, as if it carried more meaning than words could explain. "We have searched for you," the elder said. His tone wasn't angry or sharp. It was more like a parent who had been worried. "I know," Layla replied quietly. "I am sorry. I had to find help." The elder's expression softened further. "Your heart guides your steps. We never wished to stop your hope, only to keep you safe." Layla lowered her eyes. "I understand." The other 2 members of the group stepped forward and gently placed their hands over their hearts, offering a greeting Ethan had never seen before. Layla repeated the gesture. Then slowly the elder turned his gaze toward Ethan, who stood in the doorway. The elder's eyes were deep, wise, and full of understanding, as if he could see everything Ethan had done in the last few days without being told. "May we speak with your friend?" the elder asked Layla quietly. Layla nodded. "He helped me. He gave me shelter." The elder stepped forward toward Ethan with slow, respectful steps. Ethan felt a strange mix of nervousness and calm. He wasn't afraid, just aware that this moment mattered. When the elder stood in front of him, he bowed his head. Ethan quickly bowed back, unsure if he did it correctly. The elder smiled faintly at Ethan's effort. "You protected someone precious to us," the elder said in a warm, steady voice. "For this, we are grateful." Ethan cleared his throat, humbled. "I only did what anyone would do." The elder shook his head gently. "Not everyone listens to the cry of a stranger. You did. That is a rare heart." Ethan didn't know how to respond to that. He glanced at Layla, who was watching quietly. her eyes shining with relief. "We wish to take Laylee home," the elder continued. "Her family needs her, and her journey has been long." Ethan nodded. "I understand. But before we go," the elder added, "we wish to offer something to you, a gesture from our people to yours." Ethan blinked, surprised. "An offer?" The elder stepped back and spread his hands gently, as though presenting something unseen. "You have become part of Layla's story," he said, "and for that our doors will open to you. If ever your life becomes heavy or your heart seeks peace, you will be welcomed into our hidden home, a place no outsider has been invited to in many years." Ethan felt the air grow still. He had no idea what to say. He had expected fear, maybe anger, maybe suspicion, but instead he was receiving gratitude and an invitation unlike anything he had ever imagined. The elder looked at him with warm eyes. "This is not a promise we give lightly, but it is yours now." Ethan felt his voice catch for a moment. I don't know what to say." "A simple acceptance is enough," the elder said gently. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then thank you." The elder bowed again. Laylee stepped toward Ethan, her expression soft and grateful. "I will not forget your kindness," she said. "My people will not forget it either." Ethan felt a quiet ache in his chest, knowing she would be leaving soon. "Will you be safe going back?" "Yes," Laylee said. "With them, I am always safe." The elder and the other two members made a small circle around her. They prepared to leave, but before stepping away, the elder turned once more to Ethan. "We will return," he said. "Not today, not soon, but when it is needed." Ethan swallowed softly. "I'll be here." With that, the group began their calm, measured walk back toward the path leading out of town. Laylee looked back once, offering Ethan a gentle, grateful smile before turning to follow her people. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway. Long after they disappeared over the hill, he didn't fully understand what had happened, but he knew his life had changed in a way he couldn't yet measure. The quiet mechanic from Red Valley had somehow become connected to a world hidden in the mountains, a world that had now chosen to trust him. And though Laylee was gone, a small part of her story remained with him, waiting to reveal what came next. The days after Laylee and her people left felt strangely quiet for Ethan. The house seemed emptier, the mornings slower, and the evenings a little too silent. He kept finding small reminders of her, a folded blanket on the couch, a cup she had used, a book she had touched while he fixed dinner. Each small thing made him remember her gentle voice, her careful movements, her worried eyes that had slowly softened while staying under his roof. Ethan didn't realize how much he had gotten used to her presence until she was gone. He tried to distract himself with work. He cleaned the workshop, fixed small repairs in town, and even organized the tools he had ignored for months. Still, every now and then, he found himself glancing toward the hills, wondering how long the journey back to her mountain home took, and whether she had reached safely. At night, he sometimes stepped outside to breathe the cool air. He wasn't sure why, but part of him felt as though something was waiting just beyond the darkness, something unfinished. He remembered the elder's words, "We will return when it is needed." Ethan didn't understand what that meant. He also didn't know why their offer felt bigger than anything he had ever received in his life. A week passed, then another. The memory of Laylee grew softer but never faded. Ethan went back to his routines, yet everything felt slightly different now, as if his life had shifted in a direction he could not see. Then, one late afternoon, something unusual happened. Ethan had just returned from helping an older neighbor fix a fence when he noticed something on his porch, a small object resting near the door. At first, he thought someone had dropped it by accident, but when he picked it up, his breath caught. It was a hand-carved token, smooth, round, and decorated with the same patterns he had seen on the garments Layla's people wore. The designs curved around the edges like flowing water or wind drifting through mountains. It wasn't something anyone from Red Valley would make. Ethan knew instantly where it had come from. He looked around carefully, scanning the fields and distant road, but there was no one there. No footprints, no movement, no sound. It was as if the token had appeared from the air itself. Inside the house, he sat down and studied it under the warm light. The center of the token showed a symbol, a small circle inside a larger one. He didn't know what it meant, but he felt it wasn't random. It held meaning, maybe something sacred or important to Layla's people. Ethan placed it on the table and sat back, unsure what to think. Had someone from her tribe returned? Why leave the token without speaking? Was it a message, a reminder, a sign that they were still watching over him? He remembered the elder standing in front of his door, offering a promise in a calm, steady voice. "Our doors will open to you." Maybe this token was proof that the promise was real. He picked it up again and turned it slowly between his fingers. The carvings were delicate but strong, made by hands that understood the natural world deeply. Ethan felt something warm inside his chest, a kind of connection he couldn't explain. It was as though he was being quietly welcomed into something larger than himself. The next morning, another small discovery added to the mystery. Ethan stepped outside to check the fence when he noticed something strange in the soft dirt near the path. Smooth, perfectly shaped footprints. They were not from shoes but from sandals, with a pattern he recognized from the tribe members he had seen. They had been here, not last week, not days ago, last night, but again they had come without knocking, without calling his name, without asking for anything. They simply visited and left the token. It confused Ethan, but at the same time, something about it felt peaceful, respectful, as if they didn't want to disturb him, only remind him that the connection remained. By noon, Ethan found himself thinking about what the elder had said. This is not a promise we give lightly. If the tribe trusted him so deeply, there had to be a reason. Maybe Laylee had spoken to them about how he helped her. Maybe they believed acts of kindness deserved something in return, or maybe there was something else, something he didn't understand yet. That evening, as Ethan sat outside watching the sunset, he noticed the sky darkening earlier than usual. Thick clouds gathered silently over the mountains. A soft breeze drifted across the fields, carrying with it a faint scent, something earthy, like leaves and mountain air. He stood up slowly. The breeze grew stronger, and Ethan felt a strange calmness settle around him. It wasn't fear. It was more like recognition, as if he had felt this presence before. Then he remembered the tribe had moved with the same kind of quiet presence, steady and natural like wind across the earth. And then, on the far side of his yard, he saw them. 4 figures appeared near the fence, walking with the same gentle, silent rhythm he had seen before. Their clothes blended into the fading light, and their calm movements made them seem almost part of the scenery. Ethan didn't move at first. Part of him wondered if he was imagining it, but as they came closer, he recognized the elder among them, his wise eyes warm and steady even from a distance. Ethan stepped forward slowly, not wanting to seem surprised or unwelcoming. The elder raised a hand in a soft greeting. "Ethan Ward." Ethan nodded. "I wasn't expecting you." The elder smiled. "We rarely come when expected." The other members stood behind him with respectful stillness. None of them looked rushed or tense. They appeared the way the mountains would appear, calm, patient, timeless. Ethan noticed that one of them held a wooden box in both hands, carved with the same delicate symbols as the token. "We have come with the offer our people discussed," the elder said kindly. Ethan swallowed, unsure if he understood fully. "The offer? You mentioned the day you came to take Laylee home." "Yes," the elder said. "The offer to welcome you into our hidden sanctuary, should you choose." Ethan blinked slowly. "Why me?" The elder stepped closer, his eyes gentle. "Because you listened to the voice of someone you did not know. You did not question her worth, her purpose, or her path. You simply helped. Many people act only when they expect something in return. You acted because it was right." The words felt heavy and meaningful, as if they belonged to a story much older than Ethan could imagine. "You protected Laylee," the elder continued. "But more importantly, you did not see her as different or strange. You saw her as someone who needed kindness." Ethan felt his throat tighten slightly. He had never been praised like this. He wasn't used to being seen in such a deep way. The elder lifted the wooden box. "Inside this is our symbol of trust, a small token that will guide you to us if you ever choose to come." Ethan took the box carefully, almost reverently. It felt warm in his hands, as though it held something alive inside it, not physically alive, but spiritually full. "When you need us," the elder said gently, "hold this token under the morning light. A guide will come for you." Ethan stared at the box, speechless. He hadn't expected anything like this. He didn't feel deserving of something so extraordinary. "I don't know what to say," Ethan whispered. "You do not need to say anything tonight," the elder replied. "Just know the path is open to you." The tribe members bowed their heads respectfully. Ethan returned the gesture, hoping he was doing it properly. As they turned to leave, the elder paused and looked back one last time. "Laylee speaks of you with kindness," he said. "You have become part of our story now." Ethan felt a quiet tremble run through him, not fear, but a gentle awe he couldn't explain. And just like that, as silently as they arrived, the 4 figures walked toward the darkness, becoming one with the evening shadows until they disappeared completely. Ethan remained standing in the yard. Long after they had gone, the wooden box held carefully against his chest. He had no idea if he would ever use the token inside, but he knew this moment, this offer, this connection had changed something inside him forever. The days that followed felt different for Ethan. Life in Red Valley moved at its usual slow pace. Shops opened, farmers drove past on dusty roads, and evenings stayed calm and quiet. But inside Ethan's heart, something had changed. The wooden box the elder gave him stayed on a small table near his bed, and every time he looked at it, he felt a warm reminder that he was now connected to a world far beyond the town's borders. He didn't open the box for several days. He wasn't sure if he was meant to wait for the right time or if he was simply nervous. The tribe's gift felt sacred, and he didn't want to handle it carelessly. Sometimes, at night, he sat beside it and wondered what Laylee was doing high in the mountains. He imagined her walking through narrow paths, talking to her people, or helping the family members she had been so worried about. He hoped she was safe. He hoped she was happy. One evening the sky turned pink and gold as the sun dipped behind the hills. Ethan stepped outside with a cup of warm tea. The air was cool, and the sounds of crickets filled the yard. He leaned against the wooden rail and watched the shadows stretch across the fields. For a moment, everything felt peaceful, but then he sensed something soft, gentle, almost like a whisper in the air. He couldn't explain it. It wasn't a sound or a sight. It was more like a feeling. The same soft presence he had felt the night the tribe visited with the wooden box. Ethan set down his cup quietly and looked around. There was no one in sight. The road was empty, the fields quiet, and the sky growing darker. But the feeling didn't leave. If anything, it grew stronger, like a calm reminder that he wasn't alone. He walked to the edge of the yard and stood still, listening. The breeze brushed against his face. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, he noticed something near the fence, a small shape, barely visible in the dim light. He walked closer and found a smooth stone resting on one of the fence posts. It had the same carving style as the token and the wooden box. His heart warmed in his chest. It wasn't frightening. It wasn't strange. It felt like a quiet greeting from afar. The tribe had been here again, silently, respectfully, without needing anything from him. They were simply reminding him that the connection still existed. Ethan picked up the stone and rubbed his thumb gently across the carved lines. He carried it inside and placed it next to the wooden box. Now the two objects looked like they belonged together, as if they both came from a story that had only just begun. That night, Ethan lay in bed thinking about something he had never imagined before, traveling to their sanctuary in the mountains. He wasn't sure he would ever actually go. His life in Red Valley was simple and safe. He had work, friends, and routines. Yet the idea made his heart feel light, as if some part of him wished for something deeper, something meaningful. He didn't sleep for a long time. His thoughts drifted between the present and the unknown world waiting beyond the hills. Weeks passed gently. Ethan's days returned to normal rhythms. People around town didn't notice any difference in him, but he felt it quietly inside. He had become more patient, more thoughtful, more aware of the world around him. Sometimes he found himself listening more carefully to the wind, or watching the mountains with new curiosity. But the biggest change happened one cold winter night. Ethan was in bed, wrapped in warm blankets, half asleep, when he heard something outside, a soft thump, followed by a quiet rustling sound. It wasn't loud, and it wasn't alarming. It was more like someone adjusting something gently. Still, it was unusual. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The cold air rushed against his face, and his breath turned white in the dark. Across the yard, something had fallen over the old wooden lantern he kept near the shed. It didn't look broken. It seemed like it had simply tipped from the strong winter wind. But what caught Ethan's attention was not the lantern. That was the faint trail of footprints in the snow. They were small, light, and delicate, the same shape he had seen once before. But they didn't lead away from the yard. Instead, they stopped near the lantern, then circled lightly around his house, and disappeared near the back fence. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He knew these marks. They were made by sandals, not heavy boots or shoes. And there was a familiar gentle rhythm to the steps, almost like someone walking with intention, not in a hurry. His heart warmed. The tribe had come again, not for danger, not for warning, for something else. He followed the prints to the back fence and saw something resting on top of it, a long, thin branch decorated with small mountain flowers woven through its length. The flowers were pale blue, fresh, and delicate. Even though the winter air should have made them wilt instantly, Ethan touched them gently. They were cold but alive, a gift, a sign of protection, a reminder of their promise. He stood there quietly in the cold, holding the branch in his hands. The night felt peaceful, almost magical. He didn't feel watched or unsettled. He felt cared for, as if the tribe had come just to make sure he was safe, just as he had once made sure Lele stayed safe in his home. After a long moment, he took the branch inside and placed it near the wooden box and the carved token. The three items together looked like pieces of a story, small chapters of a connection between two completely different worlds. In the days that followed, Ethan noticed more signs. Not direct ones, not loud ones, but gentle reminders. Sometimes he found fresh footprints in the soil near his workshop, even though no one in town ever came that way. Other times he found small bundles of herbs tied with string, placed carefully beside his door. The herbs had a sweet scent he had never smelled before. They seemed to come from the mountains. Once he even woke up to find a narrow strip of woven fabric hanging on his fence. It carried the same patterns he remembered from Layla's clothes. He didn't touch it for a full 5 minutes. He simply stood there looking at it, smiling without realizing he was smiling. None of these visits were loud, none were direct. They didn't knock or call his name, but their presence was unmistakable, respectful, protective, just as the elder had promised. And as winter slowly faded into spring, Ethan found comfort in knowing that he was no longer just a quiet mechanic living at the edge of town. He was someone who had crossed paths with a hidden world, someone who had earned the trust of a people few outsiders ever met, someone who had been woven into a story much older and deeper than anything he had known before. One bright morning, as the sun warmed the fields, Ethan picked up the wooden box and opened it for the first time. Inside, he found a polished stone carved with a symbol of the rising sun. The lines were simple but beautiful, flowing like water around the symbol's edge. As he held it, he felt a sense of calm spread through him. He knew what it meant. It wasn't just a guide, it was an invitation, a promise, a door waiting to open. Ethan closed the box gently, and looked toward the distant mountains. He didn't know when he would go. He didn't know what he would find. But he knew this. He had a place waiting for him, a sanctuary hidden from the world, filled with people who would welcome him not as a stranger, but as someone they trusted, and he knew he would carry that connection with him. For the rest of his life, a bond formed from kindness, courage, and a moment of unexpected trust beneath the quiet sky of Red Valley.